think deeply on whether she really needs special ed for a reading comprehension disability rather than tutoring. Had we spoken before you allowed them to test her, I would have told you, get your daughter a tutor, pay for it out of your pocket, outside of school, find a high school student, college student, retired teacher, they're in every church, and see if they can work with your daughter for 3 days a week, 90 minutes each session. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, 90 minutes, 3 times a week. Your daughter will be comprehending what she reads better than the kids in high school. Most of our children only need tutoring. They don't need special ed jail. Your daughter needs tutoring. And what I would do this summer is I would get her a tutor, and I would have them do exactly what I recommended, 3 days a week, 90 minutes a session.
Okay.
And by the time your daughter goes back to school for the 8th grade, she'll be reading and comprehending on grade level. And then you can tear up the IEP, call a meeting, and tell them to discontinue the service.
Okay.
Now, let me go to the behavior because you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
When you say behavior, specifically, what is your daughter doing? Is she fighting? Is she throwing? Is she cursing? Is she like what exactly?
Disrespecting the security guards. She's like, they said the most problems is between classes. Like, she's fine when she's in class, she'll do her work, but the minute it's time to change classes, this is where she stays in the hallway. She goes late. She's walking around with her friends. They even put a 1-to-1 on her at one time because they said, they just wanted to watch where she was going. And she got suspended over 10 times. Over 10 times. It's always, she's in.
Okay, time out. So you're telling me that from the start of school,
yes,
in August or September, when did they start? August or September?
They started September.
And they get out in June.
Correct.
So you're telling me from September until today, your daughter has been suspended, out of school suspension,
yes,
at least 10 days.
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. Absolutely.
Let me tell you why I'm asking you that. If you are correct that your daughter, who is a special education student, has been suspended out of school for more than 10 days, then your child's school is in violation of federal special ed law. And let me tell you why. And I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying, because you need to draft a letter to the principal of your child's school, carbon copying the director of special ed for the district after we're done. And then you're going to send me the letter so I can look at it before you send it in. Now, let me tell you why they're violating the law. In the United States, you can only suspend a special ed child 10 total days in a given school year. That's it. If you want to suspend a special ed child for 11 days or more, you have to have a manifestation determination meeting. What a manifestation determination is, Queen, is when the IEP team and you, the parent, sit down with the IEP team and you have to determine whether or not your daughter's behavior, listen to me well, they have to determine whether or not your daughter's behavior was a manifestation of her disability. That's why it's called a manifestation determination meeting. They have to determine if your daughter's misbehavior is a manifestation of her disability. In order to do that, they have to answer 2 questions positively. The first question, okay, is your daughter's behavior related in any way to her disability? That's question number 1. Let me give you an example. If you have a kid with conduct disorder and he gets special ed service for conduct disorder and he's fighting between classes, they would not be able to suspend him for an 11th day. You know why? Because conduct disorder children fight. conduct disorder children misbehave. And since his fighting between classes is a manifestation of his conduct disorder, he could not be suspended an 11th day or more. Instead, the IEP team would have to design a behavior program that helps him manage his behavior and cut down on the likelihood that he will get into a fight. I'll give you another disability. A child who's intellectually disabled. They have a low IQ. They might, curse the teacher out from time to time. So they've already been suspended 10 days. So in order to suspend him an 11th day or 12th day or 13th day, so forth and so on, the IEP team has to meet and they have to decide whether or not this 11th, 12th, and 13th day can be legal. And the only way it can be legal is if they determine whether him cursing out the teacher is a manifestation of his disability. Well, guess what? If he has an IQ of 25, so he's severely and profoundly intellectually disabled, he don't know what he's doing most of the time. So yes, his cursing out the teacher is a manifestation of his disability. He cannot be suspended. In your daughter's case, it's tricky. Because if your daughter has a reading comprehension disability and she's getting in trouble between the classes, is her getting in trouble between classes a manifestation of her reading comprehension disability? On the surface, it doesn't sound like it. But guess what? Let's say the kids are picking with her about being in a special ed class. Then it can become a manifestation of her disability because her getting into conflicts with kids is based on the fact they're picking with her because she's a special ed child. Are you following me?
I got you.
So the first question they got to answer, is your daughter's behavior problem a manifestation of her disability? Let's say they say no. Let's say you all decide that her getting in trouble between classes has nothing to do with her reading comprehension disability. There's a second question that has to be answered. The second question, sister, is whether or not the IEP that has been designed for your daughter, is that IEP appropriate? And if your daughter has a history of behavior problem, which she does, because you've already mentioned 10 days of suspension, she cannot be suspended. Why? She cannot be suspended the 11th day or more. Why? Because her IEP is not appropriate, because your daughter has been having behavior problems all year, and the IEP team has done nothing to correct the behavior problems that your daughter has. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yes. So she could not be able to be suspended an 11th or more day. What you need to find out is whether or not, and I need you to try to track down all the suspension forms you received and see if your daughter has had more than 10. Because if your daughter has had more than 10, they violated her rights as a special ed student. You can only do 10 days for a special ed child. After 10, you must have the manifestation determination meeting to determine if this child can legally be suspended for additional days after 10. If they suspended your daughter for more than 10 days and y'all did not have the manifestation, they violated the law. And if that is the case, that would be included in my letter as well. And I would probably request, if you think it's in her best interest, a transfer to another school. You could even request an approved private school placement. If I were you and the school suspended my child more than 10 days, have not conducted a functional behavioral assessment, have not created a positive behavior plan to help my child manage her behavior, and they suspended her more than 10 days without a manifestation, which is illegal in this country, I would probably call an IEP meeting and request an approved private school. I would make them pay for my daughter to go to a private school at district expense. That is your right as a child with a disability in the United States.
Wow. Okay. Thanks.
You see. So the next thing you need to do, two things. One, see if you can recall all the suspensions. Because if you can recall or find the slips, this is why special ed parents, all parents, but especially special ed parents, you need to write down your days of suspension. Every time your child is suspended, you need to record it in your cell phone, notepad, record it. Because if you go to the school and ask them for a printout of your daughter's suspensions this school year, I can almost guarantee you that it won't be 10. Because what principals do, and I'm a former principal, what principals do is they do not record all the suspension days for special ed kids. You know why? Because they know they only get 10 of them. So they might have suspended your daughter 12 times. But if you request the printout might only have 7 or 8. This is why you have to keep your own notes. You have to keep your own notes. Now, if you cannot recall all the days of suspension, go ahead and request a copy in the printout because you don't have your own records. We should have had our own records, but you don't have them, in which case you have to request the printout of your daughter's suspensions from the school. But going forward, you need to keep your own record. You cannot trust the school to be honest about suspension days for special ed kids because they can get in trouble if they go past 10. So what you need to do now is the suspension days is your first responsibility. See if you can locate them dates. If you can't, request the printout. Okay. And then your second thing is write that letter. That letter is either going to include the fact that they broke the law and suspended your daughter for more than 10 days. Okay. And it's also going to include your complaint about the fact that your daughter's IEP is not appropriate because she has been suspended all these times. And y'all have yet to create a functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior plan. Question for you. Have you ever been called to a meeting to develop a functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior plan? Have you heard those words specifically? I'm not just talking about a meeting. I'm talking about those words. A meeting for, okay. Do you have a copy of the functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior plan?
They're doing the functional assessment now. She's been out so many days. Every time they start it, they never finish it.
Okay,
So, like
stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. That's another violation, Queen. If your daughter been getting in trouble all school year, the functional behavioral assessment should have been done after the first suspension day back in September and October. We are now in March. Next week is April. So you're telling me a special ed kid who's likely been suspended 10 days already, which is already a violation of federal law. You're telling me she don't even have a behavior plan and it's almost April. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, I am.
So they broke the law again. You see? So they broke the law again. So what they're doing is they're getting over. They're getting over on you and your daughter because they know you don't know the law. Now you know the law. So it's time for you to write that letter. First, track down the suspension days, write the letter, and then you're going to send me the letter to look at it before you send it in. Okay? But in that letter, you're going to tell them my daughter been suspended more than 10 days. Even if you get the printout, I would say my daughter been suspended more than the days on this printout, unless the printout honestly reflects the amount of days you think she's been suspended. That's a violation of the law. We never had a manifestation determination. And let me tell you why they never did the manifestation determination. They did it. They didn't do it because they knew they never did the behavior plan. You see that? They knew that they didn't cover their bases. They knew that they never did the positive behavior plan and the functional behavioral assessment for your daughter. They knew they didn't do it. That's why they never bothered with the manifestation, and they crossed their fingers hoping you, as a black mother, don't know that they can only suspend your daughter 10 days if she has an IEP before y'all have to approve additional suspension days. Now, if the manifestation determination meeting determines that your daughter's IEP was appropriate, she did have a behavior plan, she did have a functional behavioral assessment, her behavior was not related to her disability, they could approve an 11th day, a 12th day, a 13th day. But they never did that manifestation and they couldn't approve it because, as you're telling me now, your daughter has a history of behavior problems all school year and they've done nothing about it. Is that correct?
Yes. We had a manifestation meeting the first week when she had a fight, and they did determine that it was a manifestation, but they said that the IEP was not complete because when they did the under functional behavioral assessment, they checked not needed, not indicated. So they
said what was not needed? What was not needed? The functional behavioral assessment?
Right.
How? Okay. If they said the functional behavioral assessment was not needed, and by the way, there's no behavior plan without the functional behavioral assessment. There's no behavior plan without you got to do that first. So
Okay.
even if they said it's not needed because she only got suspended one day, okay, I could possibly understand that. But you said your daughter okay. Beyond that, all them extra days, at some point, the chair of the IEP team or somebody on that team should have said this child needs a behavior plan. And we need to do a functional behavior assessment. She's at her third day of suspension, her fourth day of suspension, her fifth day of suspension. At some point, they needed to have done it. Do you follow me?
Yes.
So you need to get that letter done. And I'm gonna be honest with you. You might have grounds to request a approved private school. Because to me, it just seemed like they went rough rider all over your daughter's rights. They ignored her rights. They ignored your rights. We at the end of the year, child been suspended 10 days, and you just now thinking about a behavior plan. Let me tell you what they should have did at the very least. At the very least, your daughter should have had a one-to-one aide to walk her, literally, to walk her from class to class. That's what I would have done. If she's only getting in trouble between class, I would have assigned her a one-to-one aide, an adult who would escort this special ed child from one class to the next. That's all they needed to do to avoid this problem. But they were so lazy. Go ahead.
She would get annoyed. Like, why is she following me? I don't want anybody following me. That's weird. So they took it off.
Okay, but I don't care if she get annoyed or not. If you can't, if you don't know how to behave between classes, this person is going to be with you until you know how to behave. So to tell me that they discontinued the one-to-one aid for your daughter because she was getting annoyed, that's an unacceptable, unprofessional justification. So in other words, we're just going to let her keep getting suspended. We'd rather suspend her and break the law going beyond 10 days. We'd rather suspend her than give her a one-to-one aid because she's annoyed by the one-to-one aid. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I would put that in my letter too. So you have a lot of information you need to include in that letter. Try to keep the letter to one page.
Okay.
One page. If you got to go beyond that, so be it. But I tell parents, try to keep the letter to one page, one side of a sheet. Once it's ready, you can text me for my email, send it to me, and I'll take a look at it and tell you if you need to change anything. But you need to get that in soon. And the last thing I want to share with you is in your letter, you're going to be requesting an IEP meeting because your daughter's in special ed. So all decisions involving a special ed child are made at an IEP meeting. And the three responsibilities of an IEP team, good sister, are program. What is your child going to learn when she's in special ed? And what other services she should receive while in special ed? So the fact that your daughter didn't get a functional behavioral assessment or a positive behavior plan or a one-to-one aid, that's a program issue. Number two, the second responsibility is placement. IEP team determines where the special ed kids receive their placement. Special ed class, regular class, at home, private school, all of those are placements. Now, if I remember correctly, you said your daughter was in special ed full time.
Yes.
I do not think your daughter should be in a special ed class all day. That's another reason why you need to have an IEP meeting. Why is she in there all day? If she only has a reading comprehension disability, she should only be going to special ed for reading. She should be in a regular class getting pulled out for reading only. Your daughter is in special ed all day, which means they're violating yet another law of your daughter. And that federal law is called least restrictive environment. I want you to understand what least restrictive environment means. LRE. And you might want to write it down. LRE. It means that a child can only be in special ed to the extent necessary in order to learn. If your daughter is in special ed longer than what is needed for her to learn, they are breaking the law. And the reason special ed has the LRE clause is because special education is a form of segregation. Special education is a form of segregation. You are segregating children with disabilities because you believe it is in their best interest to be separated from the regular kids and given special attention so they can make academic progress. So because it is a form of segregation, you are not allowed to segregate the special ed children any longer than what is necessary in order for them to learn. Your daughter being in special ed all day is a violation of the law. Reading comprehension disability. She should only be getting pulled out for reading comprehension support. Why is she in there all day? That's another law that they're violating. So your daughter ain't got no FBA or behavior plan. That's a violation. She was suspended more than 10 days. That's a violation. And she's in special ed all day. That's a violation. So we got at least 3 violations of federal special ed law going on with your daughter right now. So go ahead and write that letter and get it to me. And we take it from there. You have my cell. It's the number that you text. So keep me posted. Don't delay. Don't delay. You cannot delay.
Tuesday, the 29th, the placement meeting.
Okay, so when you go to the meet, first of all, you need to get, so that means you need to get your letter done now, and I need to look at it before the 29th, because you're going to take the letter to the meeting with you, and you're going to say, to start this meeting, I have a letter I want to read, and you're going to give out, I say have 3 copies with you, one for yourself, and the other 2 for the other members of the IEP team. They can share the letter. They'll make copies anyway, and you're going to read your letter. Okay, and then they can start their meeting. You're going to read it because that's going to be your official distribution of your letter to the school, the official notification of your concerns. Because whatever their agenda is, you're going to make sure your agenda is heard first.
Got it.
And I don't want you to give them the letter before the meeting because then they'll have time to prepare. We want to catch them off guard with their pants down. We want to catch them because they don't know you know your rights now. They don't know you know. That's exactly what we want. Do not go to the meeting by yourself. Take 2 people with you.
I'm working with the student advocacy, which is a lawyer. I don't know. They're supposed to be helping me.
Okay, supposed to be helping you. That's the underlying word. Sometimes they help, sometimes they hurt. But here's my thing. You need to know your rights yourself. Don't leave it up to them. You understand? Don't leave it up to them. You need to know your own rights yourself because they won't always be there to fight for you. Find somebody else to go with you. They can go. They're the advocate, no problem. Have somebody else to go with you. You should not go to meetings by yourself. It needs to be another person, a friend, a sister, next door neighbor. Their job is to take notes. You want people to write down anything the IEP team says in that meeting that sounds like it might be illegal or unfair. That's their job. If you hear them say anything that sounds funny to you, it just don't sound right. Write it down in quotes with the name of the person. And make sure you always go around and ask everybody there, who are they? Okay. IEP team has 4 required members. IEP team must have the parent, that's you, regular ed teacher, special ed teacher, and the local education agency representative. That's just a fancy word for the principal or somebody the principal designates to chair that meeting, which is usually the special ed coordinator. Okay. And any additional persons you feel are necessary. Parent, special teacher, regular teacher, principal or designee, and anyone else you think is necessary for them to be there.
Okay.
All right. So you got some homework. Get right on it. And find me a place in Yonkers where I can come and teach this to the parents up there.
I will.
All right, Queen. Be blessed. No problem. All right now. Take care. And you are a parent.
Yeah.
Okay, because your voice sounds like you might be 16. All right. No problem. Go right ahead with your question.
Okay, so I have a question about my daughter.
Sure.
Has been
I need you to speak up just a little bit. Turn your phone volume up or put yourself on speaker until you've done your question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go. You're perfect now.
Okay, so my daughter, she has autism.
How old is your daughter?
She is 7 now.
7 years old. She has autism, and you believe she has autism?
Yes, because she's considered nonverbal because she doesn't speak unless she decides to speak.
Okay, let me share this with you before you continue your question. Being nonverbal does not automatically make you autistic. Being nonverbal is a criteria to be autistic, but it is not limited to being nonverbal. In other words, a child with a hearing impairment may be nonverbal. A child with a speech and language impairment may be nonverbal. A child with selective mutism may be nonverbal. A child who has suffered developmental delay, non-autistic developmental delay, may be nonverbal. A child with social anxiety disorder may be nonverbal. A child who has suffered psychological or emotional trauma may be nonverbal. So nonverbal is not enough. What else does she do that has you believing she's autistic?
Well, she like waves her hands and claps very loudly.
Regularly? That's repetitive?
Yes, she does it like in times of enjoyment and also in times when she's upset.
She claps her hands when she's happy and when she's upset.
Yes.
Okay. Did your daughter make strange noises
Yes.
between 2 and now? She made strange noises?
No, actually, between between 1 and 2, she was saying words.
If I take your daughter around other 7-year-olds in the park or the playground right now, other 7-year-olds, and she don't know them, these are strangers, they're new kids. You take her to the playground, it's a bunch of 7-year-olds. Will your daughter go over there and play with them, or will she stay to herself?
She stays to herself usually, but then eventually she will go play with them.
Eventually she will go play with them.
Like around them, yes.
Okay, not play around them. Will she play with them?
Like she wants to be involved, but I
No. Will she? I know she might want. Will she play with them?
No, she won't.
Okay, it sounds like it might be autism. Of course, I haven't seen your daughter, so I can't say for sure. It might be autism, but I want you to watch that though, because it could very well not be. I've had kids who parents thought they were autistic all their life until I proved to them that they weren't. So it could be autism. It might not be. You said she did make the noises. She does have some social issues. She is nonverbal. What about infatuation with certain activities or objects? So, for example, I had an autistic boy I work with. He was in love with Hot Wheels cars, and he wouldn't leave a house without Hot Wheels cars. So we had to let him put 2 cars in each pocket before he would go to school. I had another autistic kid. He would only eat cereal out of a certain bowl and with a certain spoon. And then I had another autistic kid. He wanted to watch Finding Nemo all day long. He didn't want to watch nothing else on TV. All day long was Finding Nemo. So autistic kids seem to have this habituated quote unquote addiction, for lack of a better word, for certain physical things that they need in their possession or certain activities that they got to participate in. Like I knew an autistic kid, he had to wear the same socks every day, the same socks. If he didn't wear them socks, he wouldn't do nothing else. Does your daughter have that type of a connection to any object or activity?
Yes, she has this big bag of her toys that I call her entourage because she has to bring them everywhere she goes.
That sounds like autism. That sounds like autism. Okay, I believe she may have it. Okay, so we've established that. Still keep your eye on it, but we've established that she has autism. Now give me your question.
Okay.
What's your concern?
But my thing is she does say words and phrases amongst family and friends. But however, it's just to get her to speak consistently is the problem. And she gets speech through school.
What's the father's ethnicity? Is he African American?
Yeah.
Okay, so both of you African American. Neither one of you are Latino Africans. In other words, English is the only language she has been spoken to in the home.
Yeah.
Okay, English is the only language. Okay, I want to make sure, because if you would have told me the father was, Dominican or Cuban or Haitian speaking French, children who come from bilingual homes, sometimes that can look like autism too. Okay, so, and she gets speech, right?
Yeah.
How long she been getting speech? Since she was how old?
Since she was 4.
And what grade is she in now?
She's in 1st grade.
She's 7 in the first.
Yes.
Okay.
She stayed back.
I got you. She's 7 in the first grade. That's very, very young. Very, very young, which is why I'm telling you to monitor that autistic diagnosis, because it could very well be something else. Because when you tell me she does talk and you say she does want to play with the kids, that kind of sounds like it ain't autism a little bit, but it could be.
Yeah.
Okay. But your issue with her,
She's
go ahead.
very affectionate too. Because most autistic kids, because I have a sister, she's autistic. Well, as a gentleman was saying earlier, Asperger's, because she's older. So she was diagnosed with that when we were young. And
Okay.
she's not affectionate at all. But my daughter is very affectionate. She loves to hug.
Will she hug strangers? Will she hug people she don't know?
Sometimes, yes.
Then that doesn't sound like autism. Then that doesn't sound like autism.
Yes,
That I don't. And you know what? Because she's so young and she was evaluated so young, and if I would have spoke to you before today, I would have told you don't get her evaluated just yet. She's too young. You can't prove autism that early. 7, you can start kind of having a firm impression of whether she has autism or not. But 3, 4, 5, that was too early anyway. Okay, but putting that to the side, your issue with her is what? You mentioned language, but continue.
Yes. I just want her, because I can communicate with her, but I want her to be able to express herself, because I feel like that's what causes her aggression. That's why she's been placed in that autism spectrum, because she gets aggressive because she can't communicate. She can't express herself. And I feel like that's really what it is. But if she could break out of that, I feel like everything else would kind of just fall in line.
Okay. Your daughter started receiving speech at what age?
4.
So she was early intervention.
Yes.
And now she's kindergarten right now.
She's in first grade.
First grade right now. Okay.
Yeah.
How often does she get speech? The speech therapist meets with your daughter how often?
Once a week.
Right. Once a week for an hour. That's what most kids get.
Yeah, I think a half hour.
Okay. Your daughter goes to a predominantly black public school?
Yes.
Okay. Let me tell you what I think. I don't think she's getting the speech that she needs. And because she goes to a predominantly black school, I'm willing to bet you that that speech therapist is not doing her due diligence with your daughter. What you need to do is call an IEP meeting and ask the speech therapist to discuss the progress that your daughter is making with her, because you don't believe that your daughter is getting a quality speech service, because you're still noticing she has the same problems she's been having with speech. The speech therapist, is it the same one from kindergarten or a different one this year?
It's a different one.
Have you met this person this year?
No.
So you don't even know who it is?
No.
You need to call an IEP meeting and find out.
She's never there, so.
Nah, that's not acceptable. You need to write a letter to the principal. I'm requesting an IEP meeting to discuss my daughter's speech services. She's been receiving speech since 4. I have yet to meet or hear from the speech therapist at all this year. And I don't think my daughter is getting the speech services that she needs. And I'm going to tell you right now, being a school psychologist, having been a principal, assistant principal, I can tell you right now, in the black community, those speech therapists, they come amongst our children. And they might pull them out the class, talk to them for 10 minutes, give them a bag of chips, send them back to class, and then write up their speech notes as if they actually worked with your child when they didn't. You hear what I just said?
Oh, my God.
Yes, it happens all the time. Speech therapists are lazy in the black community, especially the white ones, because we don't have that many black ones. So that's why I'm saying you need to have a meeting with them. That's number 1. Number 2, my sister. There is a African American Speech and Language Therapy Association. Let me see if I can pull up the website for you. I want you to contact them and get a recommendation for a black speech therapist in Miami. Okay, speech therapist. And you're going to pay them out of pocket, or maybe your insurance will pay for it. But the point that I'm trying to make is, your daughter needs more than what she's getting at school. You feel me?
Yes.
She also needs, okay, the website is NBA, like basketball, NBA SLH. NBA SLH.org. NBA, National Black Association, SLH, Speech, Language, and Hearing. NBASLH.org. And you want to call them and say, I need a couple. Don't get one. I said, tell them you need 2 or 3 speech and language pathologist recommendations in Miami. Because your daughter needs to pay that 1 hour. First of all, 1 hour is already not enough. And then she's not even getting a quality 1 hour. I'll bet you that therapist only sees your daughter. I'll bet you she only gets your daughter maybe every other week. Maybe. So the IEP is being violated. You need to know your child's speech and language therapist. That way they know that they are responsible to you. And when you meet her at the IEP meeting, you're going to tell her, I would like to check in with you once a month to see how my daughter is doing, because I'm concerned that she's not making enough progress. So that's number 1. Number 2, on your daughter's IEP, you should, when you have the IEP meeting, you're going to write a letter to the principal. You're going to also request that social skills training be added to the IEP as a related service.
Okay.
Social skills. You want someone, autistic students need social skills training because they have a communications impairment. So you got the speech therapist.
Right.
You also need social skills training. Now, it could be the speech therapist who does the social skills training, or it could be a special ed teacher who does the social skills training. But your daughter needs that as well.
Okay.
NBASLH.org.
Got it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions?
No, that was all.
You got my number. When the next time you in Philly?
Are you going to starts getting warmer? Is it warm up there yet?
Okay. It's about to get warm. The reason I asked you that is I'm probably going to be holding a Black parent boot camp training in Philly sometime this summer. So I'll keep you posted on it. Yeah, I'll keep you posted on it, and you can fly up and be a part of that. Or I might be having one in South Florida too. If it's in Florida though, it's probably going to be in Jacksonville. So you can either come to the one in Philly or come to the one in Jacksonville, Florida.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'll keep you posted, Queen. Keep me posted.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
All right now. You too now.